Tin 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 la da da di luna tin 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 la da 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 tin tin la da di luna tin 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 baciano se al tin 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 la da di luna tin 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 baciano
What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be putting the roof on the E36. So I've had this roof for a little bit now, and I've been procrastinating to put it on. It's a little nerve-wracking to cut once and never be able to go back. So today we're going to just tackle it. This is already on. We're finished with it. I just want to have, I want to show you guys some where to cut and what sealer to use, and just a couple details about this because I can't really find too much info on this. People who do it usually don't do it themselves. They have like a body shop do it, I've noticed. So it's very hard to find detailed information rather, than any at all. So this roof is made by 2M Motorworks, I think they're called. And they're pretty good, really responsive. It's expensive, but the response time, communication is really good. And shipping, you can track it the whole way until it gets to your house. Today we're gonna be going over where to cut your existing roof out, what sealer to use, or panel bond, I believe it's called. And also a little bit of some tricks to do. You have to rivet some stuff, and that's it. So stick around and let's go ahead and dive in. All right, guys, so first things first, there's a bunch of rubber here on the edge when you take the window out. Obviously it's in the front and the back. Sometimes they try to shave it off where you can get like semi-low, but go ahead and remove all that stuff off. And how I did that was with just a little wire wheel, something like this guy here. These are cheap. You can get them at Harbor Freight, Amazon, whatever. And you just kind of want to go and clean everything up. I suggest wearing some glasses or some kind of face shield with this. After these things get kind of worn, these will blow up and fling out in your face. You don't want that. You'll learn real quick. And you don't really have to do the whole thing like I did. You just want to kind of expose, each one. And you'll start to understand the distance between them as you get going. So this tool here I got from Amazon, and it's pretty handy. This thing is what's going to drill our spot welds out. So I can't really focus this thing, but nifty tool. You got to just let it cut, let it do its thing. Don't force it. And little by little, you can get a nice, clean cut. First things first, you want to punch a hole here, or a little guide for this guy, because I find out if you don't do that, this guy will walk around, and it's very hard to control where you want this to go. So I just take a punch and kind of punch them all before that. That way it can steady itself in there and it'll be good. I did the front already, you can tell, but just take your time for this process because it's very easy to plunge through, which sort of sucks. If that's the case, just use a drill bit, but that's not what we're after here. Another thing is, when it starts to get through, you'll notice some rust will come out, or some dust rather than chips, and that's an indication that you are through that first panel, and they should look like that. But this was a lot of trial and error. I did this before on another build, but as long as you take your time, you can get really precise with things. So. So I'm just going to kind of pry up on this and see what we got here. Most of them are loose. I believe this is glued also, so there we go. pretty good. Okay, prior to all this, I did fit the roof over here, and I set it on top and nothing lined up. It either sat in this channel or sat in the back channel here. I wanted to determine where I was gonna cut it. So what I did was make it sit in a channel, either the front or back window channel. And after it sits in here, make a line and then measure 1/4 inch up, and that's where you're gonna cut. Lift it back up, push it towards the front. It'll now sit in this channel, scribe your line, and then 1/4 inch up, that's where you're gonna cut. We're mainly gonna focus on cutting the center out, I think. I'm gonna go across here, both sides, and then probably go across here as well, and without this, because I think this is kind of glued in. Yeah, all this here, I think it's probably closer to here, is glued in. So if we cut, say here, we'll be able to, you know, peel it back without bending and screwing this up here. In the front, the same. We'll end up, you know, maybe cutting it here. You know, I'll do some measurements, which is kind of here-ish somewhere. So once that's cut out, then we'll be able to get in and kind of peel it back a little bit. That'll take this whole section off. We can figure that out. These two, we'll figure this out, but I think those also are glued in somewhere, I'm sure. But I guess we'll figure that out when we cross that road. So cut across here, and somewhere here, I'm gonna do my measurements and find out where it is. And it seems to be like right around here somewhere. I don't know, let's figure it out. All right, well, that was fun and nerve-wracking at the same time. So I just kind of dove in. Let's see where we're at down here. Look at that. The measurements were right. Front is a little wonky, but it doesn't matter. That's just coming out. So now I'm gonna try to like peel this back. Everything's pretty loose, but let's peel it back and see what we got. I did cut a little further because I think we're gonna end up there anyway, or somewhere around here. So I just did that both on the front and the back. I think we'll probably chop this line next. Maybe if this comes out one piece, cool. I might end up just cutting this now, but anyway, let's take this off and see where we're at. All right, after some peeling back here, we're gonna have to cut a little more. The sunroof is kind of fighting us. A little frame inside there. We're gonna have to chop that guy, chop that one, and then I'm gonna cut at the first line, kind of closest to me, which is gonna end up probably right around here. Closer to this, take it out. And if we have to chop more of that, we will, but I'd like to keep it a little thicker, I guess. That way we have some kind of center support. We're good over here. And then you have your 1, 2 little tabs there, maybe 3, that little guy. But this should come out after that. But I don't know, let's cut this. I'm gonna try to bang this back down so it doesn't flap when I'm cutting it. All right, that does it. Got a big hole in the roof. So make sure to kind of cut through this all the way. I noticed that if not, like this little section here wasn't cut through, and I ended up bending it to chop it off, and it created a little hump, which probably is not a problem because everything is gonna kind of rest on this piece. But regardless, I want everything to sit kind of flat. This also, just grind it down because these are supposed to be level. But yeah, not too bad. I think it was right on the money with my marks, which I'm happy about. Now let's go ahead and remove this panel. This is gonna be a little more surgical, I would imagine. I'm gonna kind of chop this and let the cutoff wheel sit in here and then just graze across until this is gone. I'm gonna try to avoid cutting all the layers. It probably doesn't matter, but like, whatever. I want it to be like as perfect as possible. This one too, I'm just gonna come down until they intersect, and do that on all 4 corners and see what happens. Hopefully this piece will pop right off, but again, in and let it kind of dwell here and see what's up. Well, let's go ahead and do that.
Those came off super easy. I believe that this roof was supposed to be glued on. And I think the reason it's not glued anymore is because like this complete car was stripped. They put it in a vat and like dipped it to get all the paint off it, and then they painted it white. So I think that if you're going to do this yourself, this may be glued on, like this whole area, because I've seen maybe 1 or 2 other videos about this, which I'm sure if you're watching this, you've searched already. And the parts here don't come off too easy. These literally fell off. So I think that with stripping it in that big vat of acid or whatever it was they did, it also stripped the glue off. So this might be slightly different than what you guys have. But all right, so next we're gonna cut these off. And these, I think you're gonna have to be like super surgical. I mean, this cut was pretty intense already, but like, I don't wanna cut this channel because what sits in here is that little rain guard or whatever, and it kind of goes all the way down and rests in here. So the other roof it has a channel, but it's pretty thick, and I doubt that it's gonna fit like your OEM. So I'm gonna cut right underneath here, and I'm not gonna cut under this side, I'm gonna cut this side. So what we're gonna be left with is like our channel, our little dip up, and that's where we're gonna stop. So let's see if I can kind of show you. It's really hard to tell kind of what we're gonna do here, but we're not gonna cut the bottom of this. We're gonna just cut straight in. So, and over here, I'm gonna kind of do the same, and I'll just like taper it off, but I don't wanna get into this. So let's go ahead and see what we can make of this. I think this is probably the hardest cut we'll have to make. All right, those two came off pretty easy, but again, you just have to make sure to take your time, let the tool cut, let the grinder cut, and it'll just, you a couple passes, it'll just fall off. Just take it easy around here, you know what I mean? So we might need to actually trim this back a little bit. We'll go ahead and place the roof on and see where we're at. I don't want there to be like a huge gap here, but I also don't want this to sit under so much where now you have this huge, thing where you gotta, body work in. This came out decent, all right, but I'm gonna go ahead and clean everything up, clean this stuff up, see where we're at. I don't think we need to I might have to cut these down a little bit. They're a little high. I don't know if it matters or not, but whatever. Clean these up. These guys I don't want there. Clean this edge up, you know what I mean? But let's go around the other side, see what we got. Yeah, this side was decent too. Obviously the second side is always easier to cut, but don't go too crazy because you'll go through this and that's not really what you want. But you'll notice it's pretty easy to cut once you get going. And for here, I don't want there to be a lip here. So I'll try to keep it smooth. That way our channel is not, how it goes in here. That's what we want. So this is gonna be flat, I don't want it to come back up. So if there is, just grind it down, which I'm gonna do. I'm gonna kind of smooth this over. This also, get rid of this. But all in all, I think it came out all right. It's definitely pretty scary, but I'm kind of just going at it and figuring out as I go for you guys. But all right, on to the next. All right, now everything's placed. Let's go ahead and see what we got here. Definitely needs to be adjusted a little bit. These kind of corners right here, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm gonna kind of shave those out so they can like fit down nice. This one over here is sort of the same. You know, I'm gonna just kind of come in on that corner and then, you know, smoothen this out to try to make this as thin as possible so we can lay flat on this. As far as our cuts here, we're pretty good. You know, we're about, I don't know, maybe an inch, half inch, which I can probably trim that back if I needed to. This edge here, we cut off from the chassis here, so I'm gonna chop this off right underneath the same exact way as I just did. That way, when we put this down, there'll be a little gap here, and either we can fill it with seam seal or, you know, figure it out. But since we cut this off, I think they're fighting each other right now. This one here also, I wanna get this sitting flat, so I'm gonna just chop that and just kind of massage it around and see what we can do. As far as the channels for our windows, they sit pretty well. This one sits good. Again, we have to get this down. Might have to actually cut quite a bit of this off, but it doesn't matter because I'm gonna kind of body work inside there as well. The rear channel sits out a little bit. So I'm gonna place the rear window in and see the distance between here and there. And then see if we have a gap here, if I can split the difference with the window. You know, I just don't want there to be a huge gap there. That would not be awesome. So we'll kind of figure it out, but I have a feeling still, you know, with everything seated, you know, that might help. But let's go ahead and get everything placed where it needs to be. You know, we'll probably get rid of these gaps here and then assess the situation once again. All right, that's a little better. You can see it kind of fits a little tighter around here. This is pretty good. This is way better. That's kind of what I want there. I really don't want there to be like any huge gap where I have to like fill anything, you know what I mean? So the back I'm kind of happy with. I'm gonna address this little area in a minute here. This edge is good. And then around to this side here, this is good too. And I'll probably, I don't know if I'm gonna leave this little lip or like chop it and kind of feather it off here just to get a little tighter. I don't like this gap, but this is good. I like that. This edge has to come off still, of course, and this edge is way better. It's tighter. Take that little corner down, and that's it. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is this front edge. There's still kind of a gap there. So I'm gonna take this over to the bench again here, and I'm gonna cut back on this edge underneath so I can essentially thin it out to get it look like this. Hopefully it'll fit a little tighter and we'll be able to get this down a little more. So I think little by little, as you chip away at it, make it fit kind of like our dash, you know, and that's it, it'll fit all nice and tight. I'm gonna cut this off, not too much, because it does fit pretty good actually on there. I don't know how much down this is gonna sit. There really isn't too much underneath to like glue to, but I don't know. Let's get this down and then we'll revisit that. All right, there you go. Worked out pretty good. That thing is nice and tight against there. I can probably go back a little bit with it, but it seems to fit all right. That side got to be pushed down a little bit. This is good. And this side is mint too. I like that. I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna cut that little corner off. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm gonna cut that little corner off there just so it lays flat. We don't have this little lip. And then make a line here and kind of chop away at it and see if it fits. It is a pretty good mold. There's like a little ridge here and then it starts to go in. So I don't know if I'm gonna cut at the top of this or straight in like I did before. If there's a little gap here, I think I'm just gonna run some seam seal across it and make, you know, kind of smooth everything out. So I think that'll be good. So now, this side's good too. I'm definitely gonna end up chopping this. I'm just gonna kind of cut it across here, and then maybe just make a relief gap here. I mean, I got a little crazy with the grinder anyway, but I'll cut a little relief. This will push down in, we'll rivet it, and then it'll take care of this gap, and there won't be too much filler to screw around with, but that's it. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna get that rear window and let's put that thing in, set it in place and see what's going on here. So. A little tough to tell, but it looks like there's a huge gap here. It is possibly sank a little bit, but I think we'll be able to tell that a little later. This gap is consistent with the OEM gap because I know there's a funky gasket that does go in here, or window seal, whatever it is. This could come down a little bit more, but it's only scooched up like a little bit. You can tell it's like not much, which I think we'll be okay with because the trunk kind of goes over here, and I don't know, this side too is pretty much the same. We can split the difference between the two sides and it's pretty consistent. It can't really go down anymore, but the only concern I have is this height variation, which can be addressed either with the sealer and or with, we can put some shims underneath on this side to like level everything out. I don't think it's gonna be a huge deal, but I also am not really putting this window in here. I'm gonna put a Lexan window in, so I'm not sure of the fitment of that. Also maybe garbage, but this is a good reference. So, all right, let's continue. Get this out of here, cut the stuff off, and then see where we're at. All right, I went ahead and made one last cut on it just to get that edge. I don't know if you can see it. I need to have that like sit down on there. And now it's pretty consistent. So we can run our seam seal in there or panel bond, whatever, and it'll have something to stick to. You know, we can kind of get it in there tight. And this, I'm gonna either make a little block that goes underneath there, or I'll just fill it with the panel bond. I think that'll probably be enough. Smooth it out. This has to get flattened out a little bit, that corner. I'm gonna thin it out so it's nice. And over here, same. This came out good. Just gonna run a clamp on that, and that'll take care of that. And this is good too, so we don't have to bond too much, meaning, you know, a big step. This one is awesome. That too. I kind of followed this line, as you can tell. That's kind of where I'm gonna blend everything in, so there's not too much blending here. And this one too, it's real dirty right now, but it'll just sit down in there nice. Because before it was sitting on this edge, the edge that we cut. So I just needed to get above that. It's kind of hard to see with the camera here, but this gap is a little bigger, but it's okay because again, we're gonna fill it. Same thing as the other side. And this side too, I'll thin out a little bit, but this step is higher than I'd like, but I think that's kind of how it's gonna be, which is okay. We'll just blend it in, blend this in here. I'll take all this stuff off, blend this in. I think we're on our way. So I think the next thing to do is to remove this. I made a good point with it. I'm gonna paint the interior and then put this back on, adhere everything, and then send the car to paint. So it'll take a little bit, but when we come back here, we'll have this thing on there for good. And we're back. Engine bay is painted, came out nice, gloss, happy with it. And everything on the inside's painted also, the cage, painted everything in the rear. Looks pretty good. Reinstalled the roof and did notice one thing, that little piece that's welded in there, little plate, made this bar or this support kind of arc a little bit, which means that, you know, it's not really touching fully. It is in the center, pretty good. So at least I'll be able to get like, you know, halfway with the mud or with the epoxy. I'll get it halfway and that's good enough. I went ahead and marked all my rivets. So I'll drill those after it's like down and in place. So that's pretty much it. There are little spacers underneath here, which you'll see in a minute, because I had a little issue. Because that's arced, I needed to kind of space this up, but you'll see that in a minute here. But let's go ahead and take it off and then we'll glue. We need to glue and that's it. All right, so I got these blocks here. You can't see, it's kind of blurry. And that's because the center is a little up. And for some reason, it's just not like hitting the edge here. So I got these little blocks. They're made out of like Delaron or something like that. And what I'll do is I'll glue this here, glue it here, and then kind of stack the glue up. So when you push it on, it'll kind of like spread out, and that should do it. But I might get another little guy just to like fill the whole area. And that's it. And then once it's on, I will come in from underneath and I'll probably push this back to the edge just to make sure everything is like touching. Clamp everything, and that's it. So let's go ahead and get going. All right, guys, this is what we're using here. It's by Sem. I also use this on that back panel for my trunk area, and it's like, it moves a little bit. This one doesn't, so I would recommend this one. There's a part number right there. So that's it. All right, guys, that's that. Now we wait. Should cure in about 24 hours. Put our straps across the top. Mainly the pressure's on here rather than like obviously the center. I was a little nervous about that, like, you know, being wavy after we put the straps on, but I think they'll be all right. There's not too much tension in the center. I ran another bead along the, I guess, rain channel, is it called? And you can kind of see it. It's kind of hard to tell, but I'm gonna do another one after it's dry, because I kind of want that to be kind of arced a little bit. So I'll go ahead and do that later. And also there's a little gap here, which I need to fill. Kind of see it? It's really dark in here. Oh, there it is. And also the front, I left like really globby because we're gonna work that also when it's all dry. Let me show you the other side here. You can kind of tell this front is the same. Gross. And then this one here, again, has a little gap there, which I'll fill when time comes. Rivets are right here, and they sit maybe a little high, maybe a little low. Me and Mitch were kind of figuring out if that would be okay or not with the window in afterwards, but I think it's all right. If not, we can just drill the rivets out, just the heads, or maybe the whole thing, who knows. And it'll be adhered already. It ain't going anywhere, so. But I think we'll be fine. Well, crossing my fingers, we'll be fine.
All right, guys, that's that. Kind of wrapping things up here. I'm not sure if this is the right way to do it or the wrong way, but this is my way of doing it. So hopefully it helped a little bit. I had a very hard time finding some videos. I think there's maybe 2 online. They're not really informative, so I figured just to kind of dive in and see if I can, you know, give a different insight on it. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. Put a little comment below. If I did something wrong, it's too late, so who cares? And that's it. All right, guys, thanks. See ya.